So in today's video, I want to talk about an area where I see people can get tripped up when it comes to manifestation. So you're at the point where you know what you want to experience, right? You have the desire. It hasn't fully landed in the 3D yet. So in the middle, there's going to be all these different circumstances that unfold. And this is where people can get stuck because they try to assign meaning to the little 3D events in the middle, or they try to apply logic to them and understand, well, what does this mean in terms of my manifestation? Why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? And manifestation is not logical. And the events in the middle are just your bridge. And piece by piece, they really mean nothing. You know, Bashar talks about this. All events are inherently meaningless. We are the ones who assign meaning. This is why two different people can have the same experience and walk away having perceived it completely differently, right? So I will see a lot of people, you know, maybe, for example, if you're manifesting an SP and they blocked you, or they're doing like the social media games, whatever, and they'll say, oh, well, this means I'm doing something wrong, right? My SP blocked me, so there must be something wrong with my process. Or if it's money, right? And you're manifesting money and you got rejected from a job that you wanted, or you got a bill, you know, an unexpected bill. You might be like, oh my gosh, well, this means I'm doing something wrong, that it's not working, right? But you have to zoom out and understand you're in that weird middle part where things are just happening and, you know, in the moment it's not making sense. It doesn't need to, because you know what you're manifesting, you know your end story and how it's going to end. So you don't need to waste time trying to interpret those middle events, trying to understand them, assign meaning, like, you know, check on your progress. You know how this ends. So my favorite analogy to use is that pretend you are going to the movies and you're going to see like a Marvel movie or something like that, and your friend has spoiled the ending for you. So you're still going to see the movie, but you know how the ending goes. Now, when you go to the theater and you're watching the movie, are you going to be like, oh my God, how is this gonna play out, right? Like, if there's an action scene in there, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, is this going to affect, right, the ending? Is this going to... No, you already know how it ends. So you're just going to the theater and you're being entertained by the action, you know, maybe the outfits, the dialogue and relationships between the characters. You're just lightly watching and being entertained, but you know the ending. So it's not a shock, it's not a surprise. Anything that happens in the middle, it's not phasing you, right? It's just, it's interesting, it's entertaining. So that is the same way you want to look at this middle period of manifestation. You already know the end game, right? You know you get what you desire. It's done. Whatever is happening in the middle, whether it seems good or bad or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? This is going to also help you detach a bit. So when we talk about detachment, it's not detaching from the desire, pretending you don't want it, all of that. It's detaching from whatever is going on in the 3D, from this middle part where you can get wonky looking circumstances, where people might say things out of pocket. You might get, you know, things that trigger you. That's okay. You still return to your end, right? This is my final story. I don't need to try to figure out why this little piece is happening here, or why my SP isn't reflecting my new self-concept, right? I don't need to do any of that. And I definitely don't need to look at any circumstance and start applying unnecessary meaning and saying, oh my gosh, this means it's not working. This means I have to change my process, right? This means I have to affirm all day. This means that I messed it up, right? This means it's going to take longer. No, we don't even realize sometimes when we're doing that. So you want to be looking at this through the framework that everything is working out in my favor. This is just my bridge. I don't need to understand it. I don't need to interpret it. I don't need to give it any meaning. I just let it be, right? And I can see, eventually I'll be able to see how this plays out, how this was part of my bridge for me ultimately getting what I want. But the only thing I do know is that I'm getting what I want. And anything else that is not that, you become completely indifferent to. Right? So that's going to help you not get stuck, not get sucked into those 3D circumstances. And what I even like to do is think of all of these things, right? If reality is really hitting you hard, which I have totally been there. Right? You want to think of it as that is the old identity trying to bait you. It is doing everything that it can to stick around. So even when we're feeling off, right, you might wake up and be feeling just random anxiety or like thoughts that don't even feel like they're yours. Because they're not, right? It's the old identity trying to stay in place, right? That is its job. It's just trying to protect us. So you can acknowledge that, right? And be like, okay, I see this is the old identity trying to stick around. That's okay, right? I don't have to buy into it. I don't have to do anything with that. I can just let it be, acknowledge it, but understand I'm still getting my manifestation. It's done already. There's nothing for me to do. I didn't mess it up. Whatever is happening or isn't happening, even if it seems like there's no movement and nothing is happening, right? It's just not visible to you yet because there is always movement happening behind the scenes. So I wanted to read this. It reminds me of this parable, right? It's the Chinese farmer's story. And I'm just summarizing a bit. I have it on my laptop here. Something to think about when these circumstances are occurring, right? I always go back to this. I really like this story. So once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer and his horse ran away, right? And all of his neighbors came around and they're like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry your horse ran away, right? That's so unfortunate. And the farmer just goes, maybe. And then the next day, the horse actually came back and brought with it 7 wild horses. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's so lucky, right? What a turn of events. Now you have 8 horses. And the farmer goes, maybe. The next day, his son goes, riding on one of the horses and was thrown off and broke his leg. And one of the neighbors says, oh my gosh, that's horrible, right? I'm so sorry. And the farmer goes, maybe. The next day, officers come around, right? And they want to draft people into the army. And his son was rejected. Why? Because of his broken leg, right? All of the neighbors come around and they're like, oh my gosh, isn't that amazing? Isn't that great, right? And he goes, maybe. So the whole point of that little story there is that we don't know how each chain of events is going to lead to the unfolding, right? So we don't want to imagine on that first day when the farmer's horse ran away, if he was like, oh man, right? I just lost my only horse. This means my farm is screwed, right? And I'm never going to be able to provide for my family and everything's just messed up. That's where that would have ended. Because that was the meaning that he, the operant power, assigned to that event, right? That, okay, this event means you're not getting what you want and you're screwed. And that would have been the end of it, right? But he didn't interpret each little event that transpired. So that's the same kind of indifference I want you to look at some of these things. And it's not about being perfect. It's not about, faking your emotions or anything like that. You can cry it out, scream, curse, whatever you need to do, but still return to, I know how this ends, right? I know how this movie ends. So I don't need to be fazed by any of the scenes in the middle. I don't need to understand them because manifestation is not logical. I don't need to make them mean something they don't. So that is an area where you want to be mindful, right? Do not play with the trash in the middle, right? You don't roll around in the garbage and dumpster dive with all the unfavorable circumstances or all the things that, are occurring that you don't prefer. You don't engage and you remind yourself of your end. And you will see that those seemingly unfavorable circumstances start to turn around real quick when you do this. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Definitely I'll put some links in the description if you want to follow me over on TikTok. This is my first long form video. I've been wanting to make one for so long. But yeah, I have my newsletter. All those things will be, I'll put a link below. I have an SP Masterclass and my other social media. So that's it for today. Thank you so much.